Here is the truth that makes the stroke epidemic simultaneously devastating and hopeful. A significant proportion of strokes are preventable. Not all. Genetics play a role. Rare blood disorders exist. Structural heart abnormalities can cause strokes regardless of lifestyle choices. But the research, consistently, across decades, across continents, identifies controllable risk factors as the primary drivers of the overwhelming majority of stroke cases. Which means, the choices made today, inside ordinary moments, in ordinary days, are actively determining the probability of stroke tomorrow. Not dramatically, not in one single decision, but in the accumulated weight of thousands of small decisions, repeated across months and years, while the brain works silently, trusting that those decisions are being made. So what does the science actually say? What do neurologists, cardiologists, and public health physicians consistently recommend, not as opinion, but as evidence? Number 1, know your blood pressure and control it. Hypertension, chronically elevated blood pressure, is the single greatest modifiable risk factor for stroke worldwide. Not smoking, not obesity, not diabetes, blood pressure. And here is what makes it uniquely dangerous. Most people with dangerously elevated blood pressure feel completely normal. No symptoms, no pain, no warning, just silent damage accumulating inside arterial walls every single day. A simple blood pressure check takes 90 seconds. It costs nothing at most pharmacies across Europe. No appointment needed, no doctor required. And it can reveal a life-threatening condition most people never knew they were carrying. Number 2, treat sleep as a medical priority, not a luxury. Deep sleep is when the brain activates the glymphatic system, a biological waste clearance network that flushes inflammatory proteins from neural tissue. The same inflammatory proteins linked to stroke risk, the same ones elevated by chronic stress. Without sufficient deep sleep, this system cannot function. Waste accumulates, inflammation builds, and the brain becomes measurably more vulnerable every single night of poor sleep. Chronic sleep deprivation is now formally classified as a cardiovascular risk factor by major medical institutions across Europe. Not a lifestyle inconvenience, a medical risk. Number 3, move consistently. Not extreme exercise, not competitive sport, not punishing gym routines, consistent moderate movement, 30 minutes of brisk walking. 5 days per week, measurably lowers blood pressure, reduces arterial inflammation, maintains healthy body weight, improves insulin sensitivity, and keeps the vascular system flexible and responsive. The research is unambiguous. Physical inactivity is one of the most significant contributors to stroke risk across Europe, and a 30-minute walk is one of the most powerful interventions available without a prescription. Number 4, reduce ultra-processed food and excess sodium. The average European diet now contains alarming levels of hidden sodium, embedded in packaged foods, restaurant meals, bread, and processed snacks. Excess sodium directly elevates blood pressure. Ultra-processed foods promote systemic inflammation. Both, working together, create the arterial conditions in which strokes become increasingly likely. This does not require perfection. It does not require elimination. It requires awareness and gradual, sustained reduction. Number 5, manage stress structurally, not through willpower alone. The science is clear. Willpower alone cannot counteract the physiological damage of chronic stress. What works is structural change, defined work boundaries, regular physical movement, time in nature, social connection, reduced digital stimulation in the evening, activities that actively engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's recovery and repair mode, not as indulgence, as medicine. Number 6, if you smoke, stopping is the single most impactful decision available. Smoking accelerates arterial aging more aggressively than almost any other lifestyle factor. The body begins repairing vascular damage within hours of stopping, not weeks, not months, hours. Number 7, know the fast signs and act on them without hesitation. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call emergency services. Knowing these signs is not enough. Acting on them immediately, without waiting, without hoping, is everything. Because the treatment window is narrow, and hesitation cost neurons that will never return. Prevention is not one dramatic moment of resolution. It is not a single doctor's appointment. It is not a diet that lasts 3 weeks. It is thousands of small decisions, repeated across years, while the brain works quietly, invisibly, trusting that those decisions are being made every day, even when we cannot feel the damage or the protection happening. Tonight, across Europe, as this documentary plays, life continues exactly as it always does. Somewhere, a 38-year-old marketing director is answering emails at midnight, her blood pressure unchecked for 3 years, her sleep fragmented for months, her stress normalized into invisibility. Somewhere, a 44-year-old father is lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, running financial calculations that have no good answer. His arteries absorbing every sleepless hour, silently, patiently, without complaint. Somewhere, a 31-year-old woman felt something strange this morning. A moment of confusion that passed quickly. A hand that went briefly numb while making coffee. She told herself she was dehydrated. She told herself she needed rest. She has not mentioned it to anyone. She will not mention it tonight. And somewhere, a man very much like Lucas is moving through a busy train station, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, healthy, successful, busy, not a single reason to worry. This is the nature of silent crises. They do not announce themselves with sirens. They do not arrive with warning labels. They do not wait for convenient moments. They build. In the walls of blood vessels. In the inflammatory markers of a blood test nobody thought to order. In the blood pressure reading nobody thought to check. In the warning signs that came and went and were explained away one final time. A stroke does not always arrive with the theatrical violence of cinema. It does not always knock a person dramatically to the ground. Sometimes, it begins with a forgotten word in the middle of an ordinary sentence. A word the person has used 10,000 times before. Gone. A fingertip that feels briefly wrong. A moment of confusion so small, so fleeting, that it barely registers before disappearing. A tiny interruption inside the most extraordinary, most complex, most irreplaceable organ in the known universe, the human brain. And once that interruption begins, time becomes everything, because strokes do not just destroy cells. They erase memories accumulated across decades, memories of first days, last days, ordinary days that turned out to be extraordinary. They silence voices that had things left to say, conversations never finished, words of love spoken too infrequently, and now impossible to speak at all. They still hands that had work left to do, hands that built things, created things, held people. Now, trembling over a simple glass of water. They alter personalities so profoundly that the people who love the survivor most sometimes grieve someone who is still physically present, still breathing, still there, but changed in ways that have no name. They change the trajectory of entire families in less time than it takes to drink a cup of coffee. The frightening truth is this. Most people across Europe fear heart attacks. They have heard about them, seen them in films, know someone who survived one. But few people truly understand that the brain can suffer its own silent catastrophe. One that unfolds without drama. One that gives warnings most people dismiss. One that changes a human life. Completely, permanently, irrevocably, in a matter of minutes. So tonight, before this screen goes dark, we ask one thing. Check your blood pressure this week. Not next month. Not when you feel something wrong. This week, prioritize your sleep tonight. Not as indulgence, as medicine. Learn the fast signs, face, arms, speech, time, and if you ever see them, in yourself, in someone beside you, act immediately, without hesitation, without waiting, without hoping it resolves. Call emergency services, now, because the quietest warning signs are often the most dangerous, and the most powerful thing any person can do is simply pay attention to the whispers before they become silence.